Hi, I'm Jesse Hilbert.
Hi, I'm Charlie Herbert.
And welcome
to Arnavod
Adventures.
Yeah.
This is Season
2, Episode 7, Excavator.
The Excavator. Today's arthropod can be found just about everywhere you can think of that has an abundance of wood. And you've probably had some in your house before. Can you guess what it is?
Can you guess what it is?
Today's episode, Charlie, brings us to the world of the black carpenter ant.
Ant.
Its scientific... Ants are all over. In fact, there's 2.5 million ants for every person on Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 20 quadrillion. Yeah. Now, the scientific name of the black carpenter ant, Charlie, is... No, that's the Arctic bumblebee. Today's is Camponotus pennsylvanicus. Yeah, that's a good one. So the etymology for this one was a little tricky.
Yeah, a little
and
tricky.
When I wrote this episode, Charlie, I had not yet made the connections to aid me in my etymology search. But more on that on the next episode. So the best I could find was the genus Camponotus comes from two Latin words. First, campo, which comes from the word for field, and notus, which is the Greek personification of the south wind. Now, this really doesn't all make a lot of sense to me because I don't know what it has to do with a carpenter ant, but it's interesting nonetheless. And according to an article by the Smithsonian, Charlie, our black carpenter ant was first named in 1773. Want to try that one?
1773.
There you go. And it was the first North American ant species to be named. And its species name, Pennsylvanicus, leads me to believe that it was either first discovered in or around Pennsylvania or by somebody with ties to the state of Pennsylvania. Now, you have undoubtedly come across this species if you live in the New England area where we do. And as I suggested in the opening, it probably has tried to, if not successfully, penetrate your home. The more common name, carpenter ant, comes from the fact that they like to live within wood itself.
Yeah, they love to.
Yeah. And as you may know, carpenters are people who work with wood. So when I say carpenter ant, you probably already have their image in your brain. They are the large black ants. Well, they dabble in different sizes. We'll get to that. And most of the time, these black ants you see outside or running around your house in the spring and summertime. I say most of the time because while they typically are larger than most of the ants we have around here.
An arthropod on my shirt.
You do have an arthropod in your shirt. What arthropod is that?
A butterfly.
A butterfly. And they are larger than some of the ants around here. It is an insect, yes. So, Charlie, for this episode, I was able to learn a lot from the Ohio State University's Professor Dr. Susan Jones, that the size of the ant should not be the only way to separate the carpenter ant from other species, as even within their species, the carpenter ant, the size of this ant can differ. It means they got some big ones and some little ones, okay? Now, this size difference in worker ants is called polymorphic, and Dr. Jones describes them as being named minor, intermediate, and major workers, going from smallest to largest. So, Charlie, would you be a minor, an intermediate, or a major?
A person.
You're okay. Dr. Jones' article was a massive amount of help for the research I did for this episode. I learned so much, so be sure to check it out, her article in the show notes. While the species of carpenter ant we're discussing... That's right. While we're discussing today is black, other species of carpenter ants do come in red, brown, tan, yellow, and even just a combination of those colors. As we mentioned before, they are large for an ant, with the major workers, those are the big ones, reaching to up to half an inch, maybe even a little bit more. With the queen being slightly larger. The queen, she runs the world, Char, right?
Who runs the world?
Girls. Who runs the world?
Girls.
Yeah. If you have listened to our podcast in the past, then you will remember some of the defining characteristics of an ant are their body parts. The head, thorax, abdomen.
Thorax, abdomen.
That's right. And I like to sing the tune, like head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Head, thorax, abdomen, abdomen. Head, thorax, abdomen, abdomen. Right?
Knees and toes.
Okay. Now, when it comes time to make an accurate identification, Dr. Jones comes in handy once again in helping us figure out what to look for. She includes some pictures that you will want to take a look at. And I'm going to use her words here because I could not do a better job explaining these characteristics. So, and I quote, they include an evenly rounded arched thorax when viewed from the side, one node between the thorax and the abdomen, and a fringe of hairs around the anal opening of the tip of the abdomen. That's like its butt. Anal is a fancy word for butt. I knew you would think that was funny. Now, this combination of the first two characteristics is useful in distinguishing carpenter ants from other ant species. It is important to note that this carpenter ant does have distinct whitish or yellowish hairs on its abdomen. In the show notes, again, I know I say this all the time, Charlie, but the show notes are important, right?
Yeah.
And find them in the little transcript section on our website. Yeah. So there will be a link to the Mississippi Entomological Society. That's definitely not how you say it. The museum, which will give you some really good close-up shots of these. And it's not the Stephen one, but Stephen does work at the Peabody Museum.
Yeah. You see dinosaurs.
Yes, I have dinosaurs. Now, the workers have large, powerful jaws that they use for many different purposes, ranging from the creation of their homes to defense. They can be found in a variety of habitats, from living in decaying trees to building in both an urban and suburban setting. I think it is important to note here that they are not eating the wood when they burrow into your home. In fact, they're just chewing it and not swallowing. And the wood is carried out of the tunnel and the hole they're working on because this is where they're making their home.
They don't do it.
Yeah, they don't do it. When found in your house, this can be a nuisance, but in the wild, they are a valuable decomposer and aid in the creation of better soil. These jaws can also be used for protection, and these ants are capable of biting. They probably would hurt if they bit you. Combined with the size of this ant, the bite could be a little painful. On top of the bite, they can spray formic acid, Charlie.
Formic acid?
Yeah, right into the bite wound they have. And formic acid does not necessarily pose a real harm to us as humans, but it can make the bite from an ant a great deal more painful. One of the most fascinating pieces of information I learned through my research, Charlie,
Yeah.
was that this species of carpenter ant are farmers. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this does not mean that you'll find them planting crops around the ground. Instead, they are farming another animal, the aphid, very much in the same way that we humans farm cows for milk. They eat the honeydew. No, they don't make milk. The aphids make a honeydew that is produced, and then the ants will eat that. And on top of eating this honeydew, the black carpenter ant can also be found eating the larval stages of other insects, such as butterflies, those caterpillars.
Yeah.
And amazingly enough, they are omnivores and can be found eating plants and fruits as well. Their life cycle begins around the turn of the warmer weather in late spring and early summer, where they will be aerial displays. The winged males, the boy ones, they have wings, and females will pick their mate and match. Shortly after the courtship, the female will lose its wings and the male will die.
Yeah.
Yep. If there are other males that don't end up mating, they too will meet their demise. The female will find somewhere to start her new colony. This will typically be found under a log or in a wooden crevice. During this time, the new queen will protect her eggs and not leave their side. The queen will survive off of her fat stores until she has everybody to feed her. As these eggs start to hatch, the colony will gain workers and they will take over the responsibilities of looking after everybody. They will go out and search for food, excavating and making their colony larger, or tending to the eggs and larvae. After a few cycles, the workers will begin to vary in size and take on different roles. The larger or major workers will become protectors or guards. These are the ones we discussed before, Charlie, with the big jaws.
Yeah.
The smaller or minor workers are the ones that will take care of the ants in the colony. This cycle will continue as workers will only live upwards of 12 weeks or less, so not a long time. It will take many years for the colony to reach a thriving size. After the first few years, the queen will begin to lay winged males and females, which will then emerge from the colony and start life anew. The most interesting part about the queen is that she will continue to lay eggs for her colony, all based on the stored sperm from her initial mating experience. Black carpenter ants can be seen as a menace and are often hated by homeowners. We don't like ants inside the house, right? No, but we like seeing them outside. The best way to keep these ants out of your house or building is to keep it dry. The wetter the wooden structure, the easier it is for the ants to start chewing. If you want to prevent these animals from reaching your home, it would also be advantageous of you to remove any dead or fallen trees or stump from the surrounding area of your house. A colony of carpenter ants can travel up to 100 feet away from their home to find food. If you have their habitat close to you, this could mean they will find your way to their home. Now, Charlie, if you ever want to get rid of a colony, you need to eliminate the queen. Even if you went to the insecticide route, you need to kill the queen or she will continue to reproduce. Ants do play a vital role in our ecosystem. As we talked about earlier, they aid in the decomposition of dead wood, but also as a food source for countless other animals. So, Charlie, the next time you're outside and you notice a black ant crawling around outside, and maybe even potentially inside your house, I encourage you to take a closer look, appreciate its beauty, and see if you can't identify it as a black carpenter ant, based on what you learned here today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have an arthropod you would love Charlie and I to talk about, want to tell us what you think about the show, or found a mistake, send us an email at arthropodadventurespodcast@gmail.com. You could follow our journey on Instagram at arthropod_adventures_podcast. So, thank you for listening.
And never stop learning.
Stay inquisitive and never stop learning. Now, Charlie, the random fact for today has to do with the beluga whale.
The beluga whale,
Yeah.
like at the thing.
Like at the Mystic Aquarium, yes.
Beluga
Now, if you know,
whale.
if you know what one looks like, then you know they had this mass on top of their head.
And they're what?
Yeah, they're white, and that mass is called a melon.
They're so big now.
They are, big is a relative, but they have the ability to change its shape to show their emotions, possibly using it as a way to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating, right?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you.
Thank you.